Hi friends, my name is Akil Ahmed, and in this particular video tutorial I will show you how to use the RowCount transformation in SSIS. RowCount transformation can be used to track the number of records in a flat file, Excel file, or maybe in any other file that is going to be loaded to a particular destination. So for example, if you are going to load data from a CSV file to a SQL Server table, then you can place the row count transformation in between the source and destination, and then it can actually record the number of records that is going from source to destination. So sometimes we need to send that particular information through email to a group of people, or sometimes we need to record that particular information to a SQL Server table or to a CSV file, or maybe a text file for auditing purpose. In this particular video tutorial, I will be going to load these three files: test data underscore 1.csv, 2.csv, and 3.csv. So these particular files have some data in it. So for example, the first file has around 30 records in it, while the second file has around 60 records in it, and the third file has around 50 records in it. So we will be loading some data from these files to the SQL Server table. So you can see that the number of records are 51, but the first line has the header information, so this will be skipped while loading the data. So the actual data will be the total number of records in the flat file minus 1. So let's see how we can load data from all these three files, and then we will log the number of records in each of these files along with the full file name into a SQL Server table. We will be using the RowCount transformation in SSIS to track the number of records in each file. So let's go back to the BIDS, Business Intelligence Development Studio, and as we are going to load data from CSV file to SQL Server tables, so let's create two variables. The first SSIS variable will be file path, so it will actually store the location of the file that is going to be loaded to the SQL Server table. So let's give initial value to this particular SSIS variable, and then let's create another SSIS variable named record count, and the default value will be 0, and the data type will be in 32. So let's leave the default values as it is, and we will be loading data from these three files to this particular SQL Server table test data, which is situated inside the testing database. So right now we don't have any data in this particular table. So let's drag and drop the for each loop container, which can loop through all the CSV files. So let's configure the for each loop container, and then go to the connection, and under the folder, the folders is C files, and the file type will be CSV. So it will loop through all CSV files inside the C files folder, and under the variable mapping, let's map the file path. So every time the loop will iterate, it will assign the current value of the file path to this particular SSIS variable, and click OK. And now let's drag and drop the data flow task inside the for each loop container, and it will actually load CSV file, and double click this particular data flow task. And as we are going to read data from a flat file, so just drag and drop the flat file source, and create a connection to the CSV file, test data 1 preview. Okay, we are good here, and then let's create a connection to the SQL Server table. So we are using the OLED destination, make a connection. So the connection was already there, so click OK. Now choose the SQL Server table. So this is the test data table, and under the mappings, make sure that the columns from source have been mapped with the columns with the destination, and click OK. And now as we are going to read the data from CSV file through an iteration, so we need to make the connection dynamic for the flat file. The connection string property actually contains the location of the flat file that is going to be loaded, so we need to make it dynamic. So click expressions, and then under the expression, change the connection string property, and click on this ellipse, and then from the variables and parameters, choose the file path. So we will be going to assign the value of the connection string with the file path SSIS variable, and the value of the file path SSIS variable will change for each iteration through the for each loop container. Okay, so one thing that we missed is the row count transformation. Actually, we need to put the row count transformation in between the source and destination. So go back to the SSIS toolbox and then just drag and drop the row count transformation into the data flow task, and simply connect the flat file source with the row count transformation and choose the SSIS variable that you want to store the number of records to, and this is the row count SSIS variable, and then connect row count transformation to the OLTP destination. So we are done with configuring the row count transformation and configuring the data flow task. Now go back to the control flow window. Now we need to insert that particular information, the number of records and the name of the flat file, to a SQL Server table. So just drag and drop the execute SQL task inside the for each loop container, and the name of the execute SQL task will be log file info. Okay, and then connect the data flow task with the execute SQL task and make a connection to the ahmad.testing database, and now we need to put an insert statement here. So before writing the insert statement, first of all we need to create the table that we want to store the log information. So our table name can be logs it int identity, and another column will be file path. It will be varchar 300 record count of integer type and then dated of date time. So this is the SQL Server table that is going to store the number of file that's going to be processed and the number of records in that particular file. So this table we just created and should be empty as of now. So let's just verify this, and then now go back to the SSIS package, and under the expressions let's write an insert statement here. Under the SQL statement source, go to the expressions, and now let's write an insert statement. Insert into logs values. The first column is ID, however that is of identity type, so it doesn't require any input from our side. And the second column is file path, so let's assign the value of the file path. So file path will come from the SSIS variable, and now the second column is the row count, so let's assign the value to the row count. So this will be the row count will come from the SSIS variable row count. However, as it is of integers type, so we need to convert it to a string. And then the third column will actually store the current date time, so let's put a get date here and close the double quotes. Click on evaluate expression. So our expression is good, and now we are good here. So it will actually insert the current value of the file and then the number of records in that particular file and the current date time to a SQL Server table named logs. Click OK, and then OK. So now we are done with configuring the SSIS package, and if you will execute this particular SSIS package, so it will load first file and then it will log the number of records and the name of the file to a SQL Server table, and then it will load data from the second file and will do the logging again, and then third time it will do the same thing. So let's run the SSIS package, which should load data from 3 files and should insert the logging information to a SQL Server table. So the SSIS package is complete, and if you go back to the Management Studio and if you rerun this particular queries test data, so this has 140 records, and if you select the data from the logs table, so you can see that the first file has 30 records, second file has 60 records, and the third file has 50 records. So all these information, the row count information came from the row count transformation, from this guy. So thanks guys for watching the video, and if you like the video then please click the like button and do subscribe to our channel to see more videos on SSIS and related technologies. Thank you so much.